How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sidelined. I'm Brooke Fletcher. That's my girl, Dani K, coming to us from Miami. You've been working the Miami Open. How's it been going, Dani?
Going well. It actually had a really long rain delay today, so that was a bit of a bummer. But other than that, it's been smooth sailing, great weather, having a great time. A lot of celebrities coming in and out. I met Austin Rivers, NBA player, the other day, which was very exciting. Ray Allen has been in the building. I mean, Jimmy Butler, you name it. These people are here, and it's very fun. But I can recognize the background, Brooke. You're back in Chicago?
I am home, and it is nice to be back in Chicago, baby. Don't get me wrong. I loved spring training, and I loved the opportunity, to spend more time with Jake, but it was nice to get home this morning, go through my routine, and, it was a beautiful day here in Chicago. But we have a fun episode to get to, Dani. We don't need to waste any more time. We have a very fun guest, somebody that we both love very much, so let's get right to it.
Joining us now is Taylor McGregor. This is very exciting for us because not only is she another tie to the SEC, as we all know, I'm a big Tennessee fan. Brooke loves Auburn. Well, Taylor went to Arkansas, so just get another SEC faithful in here. But she also, of course, is a Chicago Cubs reporter. She's a college football reporter for ESPN. She does it all, and we're very excited to be joined by Taylor. Taylor, how are you?
Oh, it's so good to see you. Dani, I haven't seen you since Mexico at Brooke's wedding. Obviously, I see Brooke all the time, but I'm so happy to be on. I'm so proud of what you guys have done so far with this podcast. I've been listening, and it's been so great, so I can't wait to chat and officially be on it. Oh, yes.
Well, of course, we had to have you on, Day, and we know that you're so busy right now. I think you're in Vegas and gearing up for opening day here, but you guys kind of already had your opening day. We were following all the content from Tokyo. By the way, with the Tokyo series where the Cubs, they took on the Dodgers. How was it? Tell us everything. We need to break it all down.
Yeah, people have been telling me, it looks like you had fun according to your Instagram. I'm like, yeah, which one of my 8,000 Instagram posts gave that away? It was really the trip of a lifetime. It was my favorite vacation. Although it was for work, I still say vacation. My favorite vacation I've ever taken. I was blown away by the kindness and respect of the Japanese people. And I think first and foremost, that was the most enjoyable part. And then just getting to experience the city of Tokyo. I love big cities and seeing the different neighborhoods, getting to shop and getting to see just a different way of life over there was so cool. And then obviously I was there for work and getting to experience baseball in the Tokyo Dome with some of baseball's biggest stars. Obviously at the forefront of that is Shohei Ohtani. And the way the people received him and received all of the Japanese stars at that was amazing. I mean, they love Major League Baseball. I'm excited to see the way that our sport can grow over there. I think Ohtani and now a lot of the Japanese players coming to America has helped set up, a great path for there to be more of a relationship between the Japanese people and Major League Baseball. And I just can't wait to see where that goes. But all in all, it was an amazing experience. I can't wait to go back, Brooke. I know you are planning on heading over there maybe next year. And I can't wait to send you all the recs because it is an amazing place and I want to go back.
So we were taking notes. We were like, where's Taylor today? We were like, where is Taylor today? She's shopping. You're like hitting up all the great restaurants. I want to go back to Ohtani though, because we know he's a huge celebrity here in the States, but everybody talks about how he's treated like the Beatles over there. Like, give us an idea. I mean, is he just on every street corner and like the type of media and the fans that follow him?
Okay, so I equate it to Taylor Swift. And think about Taylor Swift. Like, we know how much of a pop icon she is right now. And you can still go down streets without seeing her face. You literally can't go down a street in Tokyo without seeing Ohtani's face. He is everywhere. He's in the subway. He's, Shibuya Crossing is like their Times Square. Like, and part of that was probably played up a little bit because of the series, but like, literally we would play a game like, let's walk down the street and see how many Ohtani faces we see. It was just insane. And what was really cool to me experiencing baseball there is you're in the Tokyo Dome with about 50,000 people. And when he would step up to the plate, it would be like as quiet as I envisioned the Masters to be. I mean, it was dead silent because everybody was so focused to see what he was going to do. And really, a lot of the players received that treatment, but Ohtani especially, like everybody was so locked in. Everybody had their phones out, like wanting to experience something great from him. And it's just really, really cool to see. We always say everybody wants to be a part of something that people care about. And the people care about Major League Baseball and Shohei Ohtani over there. And it was the coolest thing I've ever experienced when it comes to baseball.
I saw a tweet from Arash, one of the reporters that cover the Dodgers, that talked about the ticket pricing over in Tokyo for this event. This is like insane. To me, it seemed like the ticket prices were higher than what we would see out of the Super Bowl here in the States.
Yeah. So, okay. I learned a couple things on that. It was like the day of the game, the cheapest price of a ticket was more expensive than the cheapest get-in ticket for the Super Bowl. But what I learned over there is the resale market is much different than it is in the United States. It's actually illegal to sell a ticket for more than you bought it for over there. So no tickets go to resale. Like everybody just keeps them. So that's a little bit different. So yes, it was a big deal, and I thought that when I saw that stat, but that is an important note to know, is that it's illegal to resell. So they just, like, unless you got the tickets at first, you were never going to get them because they don't really hit the resale market. And those tickets that were being sold were actually being sold through American companies. So it was kind of funky. I'm like, so you're going to buy a ticket, Monday in LA and then fly to Japan that night? Like, I didn't really understand that. But anyways, that's sort of how it's done. But it was their Super Bowl and everybody kept saying that over there. It is such a big deal. And, like for us, football is still king. And the Super Bowl is still the highest rated sporting event of the year, every year in America. But over there, baseball is the NFL. Baseball is what they care about the most. And obviously Ohtani is their biggest star. So to experience that was just really, really cool.
Remind me what that price tag was.
I think it was $3,500 for the cheapest seat, which was like in the upper deck. So yeah, it was pricey. I felt fortunate to be there.
I saw a few Dodgers fans and they were trying to scalp tickets. They're like, yeah, we just flew out here just to see if we could just, get some seats. But I don't think they realized the scale and just the magnitude of what this game was going to be. You mentioned there was like the Super Bowl there. But, I think it's interesting because, the media over here in the States, they always talk about baseball and how it's behind the NBA and how it's behind the NFL. It's a dying sport. And then it's like when you go over to Japan, it almost gives you like hope or like a realization of like where it really stands on a global scale. I mean, it makes you, what did you learn about just where baseball really is today? Like seeing the impact that it has over in Japan.
Yeah, I think globally, there's a real market to grow the sport. And Major League Baseball has come out and said, like, they believe if we're talking in terms of revenue, like there's billions of dollars to be made in Japan and in other countries because people care deeply about the sport. And I think baseball, yes, Brooke, you mentioned it is behind some of the other majors, but I also think the pitch clock has done wonders. And I think it's an exciting time for baseball in a lot of ways. And so, hopefully if we can continue to push superstars like Shohei Ohtani, market them and get fans to care about the sport, you just never know the way it's going to drive the next generation. And I believe that there is goodness to come with baseball in the next couple of years.
Well, it helps broaden the players and their, status on a global scale. But Taylor, you probably gained a lot of Japanese followers over there. You have a whole fan base now.
Okay, I did, but it was nothing in comparison to what Kirsten Watson gained. So she's the Dodgers reporter for anybody who doesn't know. And she now has a larger following of Japanese people than Americans. Like she has like 130,000 followers and they're mainly Japanese people. I think when we were over there, she gained like 30,000 followers. Like it was insane. And
my gosh.
But yeah, it's insane. And it's been funny. Like I was showing somebody the other day my DMs and like all of my DMs right now are in Japanese.
You need now you're gonna have to start posting photos with Japanese literature or language on your caption. I'm gonna have to press C translation to see what Taylor wants to say.
Yeah, that was the funny part when we were out there. I was using Google Translate and I was like saying some funny stuff. So I was cracking myself up. But no, it's also cool because everybody in my DMs right now, they're thanking me for coming to Tokyo. They're like, thanks so much. Please come back. We loved having you. And it made me think, like, as Americans, are we that welcoming to people from other countries? And I would say no.
Probably
So
not.
it was a really good lesson for me as an American who probably has gotten annoyed at some time from somebody who doesn't speak my language, to remember the generosity and kindness that the Japanese people gave me. And I can, try to pay that forward, because they were just amazing. And they were so grateful that we were there and they were inviting us back. And I was like, oh, I need to be more like this. So they're just amazing people.
The culture over there.
I need to know about that Ferris wheel looking ride that had karaoke on it. I need you to describe what was happening, because I'm not going to lie to you. I was actually at work. I think when I saw it, I played it on mute and I could still pick up what song you were singing based off of your lip movement. So tell me about that.
Okay, so karaoke is a really big thing over there. They have all these karaoke bars and it's like a known thing. So at the Tokyo Dome, they have what they call the Tokyo Dome City, which is basically just like everything that's built up around it. There's a roller coaster, there's a Ferris wheel, there's all these shops, and just this quote unquote city that they call it around it. And that is where the Ferris wheel is. Now, inside the Ferris wheel is like a miniature karaoke setup. So they have this little screen inside there with a microphone, and you can go through and pick your song, which was amazing. And I didn't know that initially when I went into the Ferris wheel. We were going over there to shoot our game open for the next day because we were showcasing some sights and sounds around Tokyo. And so we get in there and I was like, this is the best Ferris wheel I've ever been in. There's literally karaoke. And my poor camera guy was like, you're insane, because I'm like up there singing. I could have been in there all day. I'm like,
make it into the open.
Yeah, I was like, who cares about baseball? Let's sing Shania Twain here, okay?
Is it projected out of the Ferris wheel? Like, can other people hear you?
It's just in your little,
okay.
Maybe you can hear outside. I was not able to hear anybody else. I don't know if anybody else was belting the way I was, but it was cool because on the screen, there was like different categories, and it was like the Japanese songs. And then it was like, it was popular world songs. And like in there, all of the songs that were popular were the same ones that you would see or hear doing American karaoke. So, I'm thinking a lot of Shania Twain, a lot of Celine Dion. There was some Taylor Swift, which is what I chose. I also chose some Celine Dion, because who doesn't love Celine Dion karaoke?
Of course.
So it was so much fun. Everything over there, I'm like, they just know how to do it right, man. It was great.
I loved seeing all of the content. I kind of wish it was projecting and that would be like the open. Could you imagine like coming up on Marquee, toss it over to Taylor? Oh my gosh.
But it was cool to me that you got to go walk around with Kirsten Watson as well. I mean, that's kind of something that I wanted to talk to you about. First, let's start in Tokyo. How do you guys connect? And do you always connect with the other team's broadcaster, or how do those relationships start to form?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, I do. This is my 8th year now in baseball. So it's just like you see them year after year. And I was in the National League West for a couple years with the Rockies. So I got to know some people in the NL West. And when you're in the same division with people, you obviously like see them a lot more and get to know them. So I would say that I have, camaraderie with a lot of the reporters around the league. And then at spring training, we get dinner. Brooke was there this year. So it's fun. And they're girls who just understand what you go through. And obviously, Dani, you don't do baseball, but we've bonded because we're both sports broadcasters and we've experienced and thought a lot of the same things. So I just think you connect over that. But in Tokyo, Kirsten was a stud. Like, she had done way more research than I had. To be honest, I had so much going on prior to Tokyo that I really didn't focus as much as I should have on researching things I wanted to do and see when I was over there. I had saved a couple TikTok videos, but like nothing to the extent of what I should have. And like Kirsten had it all nailed down. She was like, all right, we're going here. We're doing this. We're doing this, this, this. And I was like, I'm just following your lead. So she was a great little travel buddy. And it was really easy to get around over there. I mean, we had our phones, they operate like normal, and Uber's the same. So we would just Uber back and forth to each other. I used their version of the subway sometimes, which was really easy. Has English on basically every sign. So yeah, it was just like you're kind of in an American city, except for you're in Tokyo. So it was a lot of fun.
You did scout out the workout classes though, Taylor, because we know your girl loves to work out. And so Dani, she took an F45 class. She signed up, and I'm so curious how this is going to go.
Did you just watch
How did it go?
So yeah, I was laughing because Brooke messaged me like, how did it go? I go, oh yeah, I could have taken that same class in Chicago and like felt the same. It was all Americans. Our instructor spoke English the whole time. So I was so glad I did it, just because A, I needed to work out, but B, like I just wanted to see and experience it. And there are like a decent amount of Americans who live in Tokyo. It's a big city. Like think about New York. Like there are a lot of people from other countries who live in New York. So it was really cool. I was bummed though, because I was showing Brooke this other workout class I wanted to do. And it was like on surfboard. It was like a Pilates situation on surfboards. And I really wanted to go, but unfortunately the only opening of the class was like when I had to do something for work. So I couldn't go. I was bummed about that. Cause I feel like that would have been probably more Japanese, and I probably would have been really lost in class, which is kind of what I wanted, just to like experience it. But F45 was great, and I felt like an American in the class.
It's so funny because that is a part of traveling as a reporter that I feel like people don't really recognize, because yeah, we like to work out also. All of us have somewhat of an athletic background, right? And finding classes, I don't know about you guys, but I rely on ClassPass. There's a Barry's across the street from this particular hotel. There's a Solid Core Pilates as well. Like you end up going to those bigger name studios, but I have gone to a couple that are in French. When I was in Montreal, that was a little strange. I actually had to just kind of like look around and guess. I got corrected a couple times. Like, we're not doing that. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what you're saying.
Can you tell I'm new here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, Dani, are you in Aventura or whatever? Or is it?
Yes.
Okay, I literally have been to that Solid Core and Barry's. That's so funny you
No
say that.
way. That's
You're
so
saying that, and I'm like, I've worked out both of those places because obviously I've traveled to Miami for work, and I know exactly where that is.
I wish I was in Brickell. I've been complaining. Gosh, I'm such a brat. I shouldn't complain. But the last 5 years we've been in Brickell, and now this year we're out in Aventura, and the only thing there is to do essentially is go to Barry's and Solid Core.
Yeah, pretty much. I've stayed in that area many times, so I feel that. That's so funny. Yep, that's our life on the road. You figure out like where the nearest Whole Foods is, which there's a Whole Foods right by there, and the nearest workout spot. That's basically my life on the road. Like, how can I eat healthy and how can I exercise? Because although this seems like vacation, it's not, because I'm on the road so much that I still have to take care of myself.
That's the hardest part. And I'm going to have to take notes from both of you guys. I feel like, okay, sign up for ClassPass. That's something, because I'm doing Orange Theory right now, but their system is weird. You have to like pay for every other studio you go to. Yeah. So ClassPass. And then how do you eat healthy?
Oh, you might have to ask Taylor that question, because I actually have geared up currently on my phone my sushi order, and I can tell you that it does include some tempura in here. It's not all healthy. I have it geared up for as soon as we're done with this podcast.
Okay, so the Major League Baseball circuit, I will say the advantage is you stay at the same hotels. So like, again, this is year 8 for me. So like I've been to every ballpark, and so I'm familiar with every city enough where I'm like, okay, there's a Whole Foods here. Like there's, a Kava here, or like things that are like relatively healthy. And then you just like pick your spots, and you kind of know what you can and cannot eat. And what ballparks have good food. Like some press dining is actually fine. Like you have a nice salad bar with some grilled chicken and you're like, call it good. And then others, you're like, this is awful. Like I have to eat a hot dog or I'm going to starve to death. So for those places, you have to remember to like pack food. So it just takes time to kind of learn it all. But the good news is like, once you go back, you just sort of know the routine, and you're like, okay, this is here it is. I'm in Cincinnati 10 days every year. I know my spots here. And then you just like keep it moving.
It's not Skyline chili. I can tell you that right
No,
now.
Oh, Lord,
definitely
no.
not. I've never had Skyline chili actually, and I have no desire to have it.
Save yourself.
Yeah. Don't get it. It's not worth it.
But you brought up something earlier that I want to dig a little bit deeper into, because obviously you're friends with a lot of broadcasters. Let's start with the fact that you are super good friends with Brooke, especially. For those of you that don't know, Taylor was a bridesmaid in Brooke's wedding. How did the two of you meet initially?
We initially met through our friend Lauren Jabara. Lauren was living in Denver, and Brooke had known her from Detroit because obviously Lauren's from Detroit and Brooke was working there. So that was how we met initially, but we actually became really good friends because I was dating a guy who lived in Detroit. And so I would go visit and he would be working and I would go hang out with Brooke all day. So like I was in Detroit all the time while he was working, and we just like hung out all the time. And then she ended up moving to Chicago, and you know, it flourished even more. But that was I feel like we can shout out my ex-boyfriend Jordan. Okay, we can thank Jordan for this friendship because
Yeah.
that was really how we like grew our friendship.
I know. I would always text Taylor. I'll be like working the Pistons game. I'm like, "Are you here?" I'm like,
Yeah.
let's hang out. So yeah, no, and it was funny. I think it was like a 27th birthday. I went to Denver, and Lauren's like, "Can my friend Taylor come?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Like, you know, why not? But it was
And
funny
then we-
because wait, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Brooke.
You go ahead.
Taylor, you take it.
Well, okay, I was going to say, and then we learned that our dads actually worked together. So like we
Yeah.
had this connection and we didn't even really know. And so that was really special too. And my dad passed away when I was in high school, and getting to meet Brooke's dad and hear stories about my dad, like it's really special. So Brooke and I were destined to be friends.
We were.
Totally. And now the fact that you two are best friends, and one is a reporter for the White Sox and one's a reporter for the Cubs in the same city, like it's actually like you can't script this sort of thing. Like, has anybody said like, hey, don't share trade secrets to your bestie over there?
No, we've actually talked about potentially doing something together. I know, like, you know, we have some passion projects, whether it's charities, we're like, this is an opportunity. We have great platforms to potentially, you know, nothing is in the works yet, but I think, you know, now that we both have this opportunity, you know, maybe do something with charity, give back to the city, and we'll see. But no trade secrets are shared in this friendship. Keeping it very professional here.
At least not about baseball, but listen, we're trading secrets of other things, okay?
That's true.
Exactly.
We're spilling the tea big time.
Yeah, we're spilling the tea.
I love that. Wait, look, okay, this is a strange situation though, because I feel like when we were all growing up in broadcasting, correct me if you guys don't agree here, but I feel like at first it was very much like there weren't a ton of spots for females. So you're constantly compared to one another, and you're going up for the same job as someone else. So how could you possibly have an authentic friendship with someone when you're competing with them for jobs? And then there got to be a point, at least in my own career, where I started to let go of a lot of that and realize that there is room for everyone. But it is a delicate path at times, especially like the two of you working in the exact same sport and same industry. That, how do you balance situations like that, Taylor?
Well, I think Brooke makes it so easy because, like, if you know Brooke, she's like the most humble, kind person that you could possibly know. So, like, I've never ever felt, I'm gonna cry because I love Brooke so much, but no, like she's just awesome, and like it is special that we are able to be friends in this industry. And I would say for the most part, like, there's a lot of great women and we all support each other. But like Brooke and I's relationship is really special because we are super close, and, you know, we want and value a lot of the same things. And so, but like, we've never been competitive with each other. I just feel like I don't think anybody was more proud or happier for her to get the White Sox job than me. Like, I'm so proud of her. And I know how badly she has wanted to be a team reporter, and she's going to crush it. So I'm so thankful for her, but a lot of it's just like her character and who she is as a human. Why am I so emotional? This is embarrassing.
Taylor, you're gonna make me cry. But no, I mean, I think that's why, you know, and I think Taylor and our faith is something that really like grounds us. And so I think we really bonded over that. And I think just trusting, you know, how things work out. They all work out the way that they're supposed to. And I think just, we're genuinely just so happy for each other. And Dani, I think like you and I worked at the same, company and the same network and, never felt that competitive, that competitiveness at all. And I think you and I, we bonded immediately. And, I think all of us, we've been in this industry for long enough to where, and I think it's also just getting older and wiser. And I think, when you are so grounded and where you are as a person, I think you can just kind of pick up on the type of women that you want to surround yourself with and that, are genuinely there to support other women and lift other women up. And so I think, that's why we're all friends. And I'm so glad that you guys were able to meet at my wedding, because I think it's just like building a community. It's so important in this industry because it's such a freaking grind and it can tear you apart. Like you have to believe in yourself. But I think like having strong women around you that genuinely support you is just as important.
I completely agree. And I can tell you, Brooke, Taylor and I at one point thought we were on our own private date that last night that we were out and about. I believe that everybody else was, I don't even know. I got so distracted. All of a sudden, I'm like, Taylor, we've been sitting here for like an hour and a half. Are we going to go to bed soon? Like, what's the plan here? But it is interesting. And I kind of want to peel back the curtain a little bit for our listeners who aren't, or maybe want to be a sports broadcaster or a broadcaster in general, or work in sports. Some of the commonalities that we're talking about, maybe can you be a little bit more specific? What are some of the things? Obviously, travel is the first thing that comes to mind, and sharing travel secrets, but maybe deeper than that, Taylor, what's some of the things that you feel like you've connected with other broadcasters from various sports over?
Yeah, well, I'll start specifically with Brooke. Like she mentioned our faith, and I would say that's probably like the strongest bond, but I think we relate on a lot. Look, Brooke is married now, I'm single, and like we've talked a lot about relationships and how hard it is in this industry for several different reasons to like date. And so that like we've bonded a lot over that. I think you bond a lot of just like the values that you create within the industry. And there's oftentimes where this job can consume you, and not in a positive way, but if you have other people to like level you and be like, I felt that too, here's how I got out of it. Like it's so important. And I've cherished that so much, especially with Brooke, just because of our proximity and like how close we've gotten. But I would say like with other girls who maybe I don't see as much or I'm not as close to, like just the overall, I mean, Dani, you and I, like the only thing I'm mad about when I met you is that we didn't meet sooner, because like
Right.
You and I have so many of the same values too. Like we talked about the industry and like, what do we want? And there was a time when it's like, you would give up everything to chase your dream. And then you get to a point and you're like, well, I also want a family and kids. So like, at what point do I have to sacrifice some work to meet somebody and to like pursue that aspect of my life? And like, they're just things that you don't think about, or that other people can't really relate to. Like, I don't think anybody can understand this schedule until you've been in it, and you can try to explain to other people, but until they've lived it, they've lived like this notion that your identity can get wrapped up in your career, probably more than most girls our age. Like it's just something that we have with each other that like people outside of the industry just don't. So like I really enjoyed talking to Dani about our common values of like, I'm kind of to the point now where I want to cut back on work and like focus on growing a family and like what that next chapter of my life looks like. But it's hard. It's hard when you've worked so hard. And
let's dive into this dating thing, because I feel like I'm fine to talk about this.
Boy.
Here's the deal.
You open that door.
First of all, men don't like a successful woman. And if they say they do, they don't know what that is until they've met one. And then they start to decide. So it takes a very independent, confident guy to date somebody, especially in a role like this. But you mentioned the scheduling. The schedule, I mean, it depends on what sport you're covering, but can you just give me like an average couple weeks for you, sort of what that looks like in baseball? Brooke, buckle up. At least you've got yours in the bag.
Yeah, literally buckle up. Well, it's funny because I was dating a guy last year and he like had played baseball in college, so he thought he knew the schedule. And then I was like, okay, I can't see you for like 3.5 weeks on a Tuesday. Like, you in? And like, I don't think he had any idea. Like it was like shocking, even though he thought he knew, like you just don't know until you're in it. So I think the hardest part for me with baseball is that it's an everyday sport. So it's every single day during the season. You just don't get a break. And even if you're home and you're maybe not on the road, like you're still working every single day. So that's the most challenging part from like right now, with opening day around the corner till October, when the season ends. Like you work basically every single day. And so that's just the really challenging part. And like, in fairness to guys, if I was dating somebody who could never come to anything, like I wouldn't blame them either. Like I'm not sitting here being like, it's on them. Like I'm like, no, I get it. Like I totally get it. But it just like makes you realize that it is going to take somebody special. And like Brooke found it with Jake because he understands, but most people don't.
Well, and that's why I think it's so important with somebody, you know, given where we are in our industry, you need somebody that has their own thing going on and, you know, your lifestyle, like you have to have a full understanding of like where you stand and where he stands. Sometimes you're going to have to give, it's going to be 80-20. Sometimes it's going to be the other way around, but you have to, it's like a team. It really is like a unit. I'm curious, Tay, because you cover one of the biggest teams in baseball. And everybody knows you here in Chicago. And so what is the dating scene like for you? Like, are guys like, what is it like when they're like, so tell me about like, who are the Cubs picking up, you know, at the trade deadline? Like, do you have to deal with that?
Well, okay. So I've like dabbled in the dating apps. I'm really not a big dating app fan, but I have dabbled. Okay. And I think I've met up with 2 guys off of the dating app. One of them was my long-term ex-boyfriend. And
That's
the other guy was recently. Yeah, because here's my point. First of all, I'm not on them a lot.
You're a saint compared to me.
I have gotten so many DMs of like, oh, like I'll see you at Wrigley. And I was like, there is nothing more unattractive as an opening statement than like saying something about the Cubs. And I've never dated a Cubs fan. I've dated sports fans before, but like I don't know how I would feel about dating somebody who like wanted to talk about my work all the time. 'Cause like even when I was dating my ex who worked in basketball, like I actually don't feel like we talked about sports that much. Like we were both diehard sports fans. Our whole lives were consumed to it. And maybe we talked about it a little, just like the happenings at work, like, oh, this guy got traded or whoever, like whatever. But I didn't feel like it was like a big part of our relationship. And I think that's like kind of what I want, but who knows? Like sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I want, but yeah, I
completely get it. Yeah. I completely get it. I mean, when I was dating in Chicago and going on the apps and trying to go on a date, and I think I asked Brooke one day, I was like, do you think I should I'd never put my job on the app. I think I wrote communications at athletics, is like literally like I was in the sports information department or something. But I was wondering if I should just stop telling people on the first date or as you're starting to talk, like what you do, because it automatically changes a guy's perspective and the conversation goes not in the direction I'm trying to have. So I was like, maybe I should just hide what I do. That's what I was starting to think was going to be my new, like, don't bring it up work until like date number 3. So that it was kind of hidden, but it's also my identity. So it's kind of difficult to decide. Well, and then another thing was like, do you hide like the nice things that you own? Like, do you hide them to show that you aren't successful? I don't know. Like it was such a game I would be playing.
Isn't that sad that we have to think about that, because that's like what the dating pool is like these days? And you have found, you know, a diamond, Dani, in Travis here. How long did it take for you guys to really dive into your career? Was that something you discussed on the first date?
A little bit on the first date, but not too much. He's a sports fan, which I think is great, but it's not like consuming his life, although he would tell you different, but I know what it's like to have like it consuming your life. But he is a sports fan, but we didn't talk about a lot of that. It was a lot more about restaurants and travel and parts of the job that come with it, but are completely different from like the tangible, oh, well, what tennis player said this today? And have you ever met so-and-so? What's Serena like? It wasn't like that.
That's where I come in. I just ask all those questions.
Exactly. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the girls are for. I think.
Yeah.
For
Can we
me,
talk about how you had to big time Serena Williams to come to this podcast? So there's that.
So I mean, I'm puffing out my chest a little because listen.
I know. I quickly hugged her and I was like, we gotta go. Taylor McGregor is waiting for us. Okay. It is time to get into the car and get over to Aventura. But Taylor, wait, what were you saying in your experience?
Oh, well, I was just saying, like, yeah, it's this weird balance. I'm also like, I basically know instantly, like, whether I am going to be into you or not. And so I feel like it's kind of like this, like, if it's natural, then it's just gonna, like, you're gonna talk about it however much you're gonna talk about it, and you're not gonna, like, worry about it. But if it's not right, then that's when you're gonna start thinking, like, how much are we talking about it? You know what I mean? Because I do feel like, as I was saying, I don't want somebody to, like, open up with the line of, like, oh, you work for the Cubs. But I do want somebody who understands and respects the grind and, like, understands and respects, like, how hard we've all worked to get to these positions. And, like, also, I don't know if this is bad to say, but, like, I do want somebody who's, like, a little proud of, like, how, like, where I'm at, because I've worked hard. I've worked hard for that. And I love my job, and I'm, like, so grateful to be here. And so I want somebody who, like, respects that and thinks it's great in a way for me, so anyways, yeah.
Someone
you
that's
don't
proud
want,
of you.
You don't want your job to define you, and you don't want that to be blurred when you date someone. Like, you want them to think of this as, like, oh, I love Taylor, and then this is her job. And I know, like, when I met Jake, and I don't know if, like, that's just being around, athletes, like, my whole life. And I know, Taylor, you with your dad, and you were around sports your whole life too. But it's like, you look at the person and I'm like, oh, he plays baseball. Okay, that's just your job. Like, you go to the field, you come back, like, there's that separation. And I think, like, that's, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like that's what you're saying is, like, you're okay if somebody's, like, supportive of your career and supportive of, like, oh, that's cool, you do the Cubs, but, like, they don't let that kind of, like, blur their vision of, like, who you are as a person.
Yeah, 1000%. And I, just with, like, my conversations with you about Jake, like, I would say there were elements of Jake that you fell in love with that make him a good baseball player. Like, he's highly motivated. Like, there's all of these things that come with a successful person that are so attractive. And, like, that's the element that I'm saying is, like, I hope they are attracted to me because I am highly motivated. Like, I'm driven, and, like, I care about, building a better future for my family. Like, I hope that's why, which is, like, a part of why I'm good at my job, because of, like, those values. And, like, I think, Brooke, like, that's part of why you fell for Jake, of, like, those values that make him a good baseball player are, like, part of the reason that you fell for him, because they also make him, like, a good husband, a good father, like, all these other areas of life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you brought up a really good point earlier, and I'm fine talking about this too, about myself. I was telling Taylor, Brooke, at your wedding about how, I left my job in Chicago. They did not sign me. I up and left because I knew at 33 years old at the time, all I wanted was to find the next chapter. And it wasn't about work in that moment. It was about wanting to find a husband, wanting to hopefully have a family someday, God willing. And I knew I was from the West Coast, and I just wanted to put myself in a place to prepare for the next chapter should it come. And, usually, as we all know, contracts tend to come in 2-year intervals. So if I would have been signed to 2 more years in Chicago, that's now looking at 35 years old. And being in Chicago, which is nothing wrong with Chicago. I loved it. Some of the best years of my life. It's just not where my family's from. And I wanted to find somebody that's a little bit closer to home. And, to leave a job and leave money on the table is mind-blowing. Had you told 18-year-old, even 21-year-old Dani that I was going to say no to a national television network, I would not have believed you. But since then, it's worked out. Obviously, Tennis Channel has picked up some stuff, but I think that's where you just have to start to listen to your gut and realize where you are in life, because younger Dani would have slapped herself.
Well, and I feel like we've been programmed, and Taylor and I have talked about this a lot, and Dani, I think we have too, is just we've been programmed, especially as women in this industry, where it's like, you got to keep your head down, you got to keep grinding, and it's like, put everything else aside, you got to focus on the job, and what's next? What's the next thing? What's the next level? And it's just an ongoing cycle. And I know it's like scary to take that leap of faith, like you said, to turn down that job and to move across the country when you weren't sure exactly like, where you stood in your career. But isn't it such a peaceful feeling and such a weight off your shoulders to be at that point in your career now and just in life where we are mature enough, we're old enough to where we're like, it's okay to have some balance. It's okay to say no sometimes. It's okay to take a step back and be like, you know what? I don't need to do this for my mental health, for my physical health. Like, it's so refreshing to just be at that point in our career where we're still striving to reach that next goal. We still are ambitious because we've worked our butt off. But like, the mental toll it took and the mental roller coaster I had getting to this point, for me personally, I'm just so happy to be at a point now where I feel like I can breathe again.
Well, Taylor's over here juggling 11 sports. Well, not really 11, but doing college football and Major League Baseball is not an easy task.
Yeah. So I'm so glad you guys brought this up, because the advice you get when you're younger is say yes to everything. Mm-hmm. And I have learned recently the most empowered I have felt in this industry is saying no, because saying no to something with work means saying yes to something else, whether that's time with family, friends, time to be outdoors, whatever it is that like fills my cup so much. I felt so empowered by that. And certainly we've all reached a point in our careers where we're able to say no. I'm not telling the younger generation like say no, because there was a time in my career where I had to say yes, but I do feel like I've gotten to the point now where I have the ability to say no, and it's been so empowering to do that I'm glad that we are all to that point now, because it does feel so great. And again, back to like the work-life balance, I always say there actually is no balance, because to me, balance means equal. And like my faith, my family, and like my values are so much more valuable to me than my work. So like they're not equal. Now, do I give more time to work? Yes, because that's the season of life that I'm in. But like I'm not making them equal with my family. And so again, saying no means being able to invest more time in the things that I know I care about more, which is really empowering.
Speaking of advice, Tay, what are pieces of advice that I guess the best piece of advice that you've gotten, and maybe the best piece of advice that you have probably for more so the up and comers, people wanting to get into any industry, but whatever their passion is?
Ooh, yeah, this is great. I have people, and I'm sure you guys do too, like, give me one piece of advice. And I'm like, I don't know if there's like one piece, like there's different advice for different seasons of life that you're in. So let me start like when you're first starting, like I would say right now, like get creative in the ways that you're making content. Because when I came out of college, I went to local news, and Dani, so did you, right? Or you went to Tennessee, so you didn't do.
No, I went to Tennessee. I had to create my own content too.
I went to the local news route, which like at the time felt to me like it was the only option. And now, and like Brooke had a completely different path. Dani, you did too. And so there, and I would say now there's so many more paths. And especially with social media, TikTok, like people can create content in a variety of ways. And actually like local sports departments are shrinking by the minute. So I think like get creative. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I was so scared as a young person to like email somebody too much or like put stuff on social media because I was like embarrassed of like what people would think. And it's like, get over that. Like you never know who's going to see something that's going to pick you up, and like the doors that could open from that. So I would say like, if you're just starting, like believe that. For me, the second piece of advice, and this goes for everybody, and this goes for me included, I'm preaching to myself. If you want to be good at being a sideline reporter, because that is the main role that I hold, you have to be good at writing. And that was something I did not invest enough in as somebody coming into college. I think I was like, oh, I just have to be like good at being on TV. And it's like, well, what does that even mean? You know, but like the best sideline reporters are people who can create 20, 30-second bites out of like 5 minutes of information. And they might toss it down to you and you think you have 45 seconds because it's in between plays, and all of a sudden they go, hurry up, and you got to get out. And so like being able to be clear and concise with what you want to say, and do it grammatically correct, which is what I struggle with at times, it's a skill. It really is. And I would, some people don't even know like what makes a good sideline reporter, but to me, that's the number one. If you can be clear and concise with your information and deliver it in a smooth, consumable way, like that is what makes a really good sideline reporter. And then like the second thing with questions, and Brooke and I like literally sit on the couch like dissecting questions. We're like, what'd you think about that one? But
why are we the way that we are?
I would say the most important thing for me, and I would say Brooke agrees with this, is it's not about you. Your job as a reporter is to elicit the best response. So, you might want to come up with this question that proves to everybody how much you know and like frame it eloquently. And like, sure, certainly there is some value in that. But ultimately, the most valuable part of what you're trying to accomplish is the response of the interviewee. So like that is what the focus should be on. And I think young reporters especially, and I was there, like you want to prove how much you know and you want to like insert stats and like do all this stuff. And then by the time you actually get the response, it's like, well, you already kind of just said.
Right.
So I think there's like a true art form to asking questions, but that's like number one, like piece of advice is to just like remember that. And then number three, lastly, I promise I'm done here. I would just say like, remember where your identity comes from, because as we talked about, this job can feel really big at times, and it can feel like you're the most important person in the world. And the reality is you're not. Okay. And like, there are so many more important things out there, and you will reach a stage in your career where you get to the point where you understand like this job is going to end at some point. And so if my identity and my value is so tied up in what I do, like, am I going to be okay when it is gone? And like, I hope the answer to that question for me is yes, of course I'm going to be okay when it's gone, because my identity is not wrapped up in my job. Like, I am so much more than Taylor McGregor, the Cubs ESPN sideline reporter. Like, I have so much more to offer. And like, that is something that there have been times in my life where if you were like, I'm taking this job away, I would have been like, no, please no. But I've just like tried to remember that day in and day out. Like, I do not own this job. I will not be here forever. So I have to remember to keep my identity in something else.
Great pieces of advice.
Such good advice. I'm like, I'm taking notes, mental notes. But it's so true. I'm glad that you brought up the writing thing, Tay, because, we talk about like the grind and things like that. And, so many aspects of the journey, but like the nitty gritty of like this job and like writing is so important. And I don't think people understand that, and be able to grasp that, and just to be able to report things in a concise manner. Like, that's so invaluable. And I'm just now learning that like over the past few years. I wish I would have known that years ago getting into the industry. That was really good advice. Really good advice.
Great advice, Tay. And I know that we promised you that you could escape around this time. So yes. Is there any final words that you want to bestow upon us? Because you've been crushing this.
Okay. I just want to build you guys up. Like, I'm so proud of you. And I love how this podcast, like, you're so willing to share you and like the things that are hard, the things that are great, like that. It's so relatable. And I remember as like an aspiring broadcaster, like I just would like cling to anything I could get from more experienced reporters. And so I know the up and comers are like dying at this content. And so I'm so proud of you guys for pushing it out there. And like, listen, the old one who's like about to be sent out to the pasture, aka me, like I love this podcast too. So I'm learning stuff. So I'm just so proud of you guys for what you're doing, and I can't wait to see it grow because it's just beginning.
Oh, you're so
Thanks,
sweet.
Tay. No, we appreciate you taking the time. I know a lot of people that are up and coming in the industry look up to you, and I know I look up to you in so many ways, and
So
just
do
have
I.
so much, so much respect for you. You've worked your butt off to get where you are, and I'm just so proud of you. And so thank you so much for taking the time. We know you're out in Vegas. You're getting
Go
ready.
have a margarita for me.
I know, yeah. Are you gonna take your limo?
I did take my limo, okay? I took it begrudgingly a little bit, but
That was a full trip
that's
thing.
a different subject for a different day. I am not drinking for a very long time because I need to get back into shape after all the food that I ate in Japan. So your girl is going to be sipping some water and eating celery for the foreseeable future. And on that note, I'm just kidding. But
Well,
thank you
enjoy
guys
your.
for asking me, and I will have a nice water from the rooftop for you, Dani. How about that?
Yes. Works for me.
Guys, Taylor, thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of Sideline. We'll see you next week.